Tom Dupree, I'm not the former Deputy Assistant Attorney General. He drew the line, as you just heard, Tom, on if he is convicted of any of these crimes. It's a different matter. Legally, is it a different matter?
Well, that will be the big question, Neil. I think legally, is it a different matter? Someone who is a convicted felon can still serve as the president of the United States. If you're talking about a universe in which the convicted felon is actually sentenced to a term of imprisonment, could he be a president of the United States while sitting in a jail cell? Practically, the answer is probably yes. I think what would realistically happen, though, in that circumstance is that we would not be imprisoning a sitting president of the United States. My strong hunch is if someday we were in that crazy universe, President Trump would not be governing the United States from a jail cell. I don't see that ever happening.
Let me ask you a little bit about this requirement in Georgia, or at least it stood out among the 4 indictment cases we have, where the former president had to take a mugshot, had to be weighed, all of that. It just seemed a bit much, but is that the way they do it in Georgia and they couldn't do it any other way?
Well, it is the way they normally do it in Georgia. And I think that the thinking of the Fulton County sheriff was we're going to treat former President Trump like we would any criminal defendant and put him through this process. But is it strictly necessary from a law enforcement perspective? Absolutely not. My goodness, former President Trump is one of the most recognized people on the face of this planet. And the idea that you would need to have a picture of him out there, you would have to know his height and weight in order to identify him if he were to jump bail, that's absurd. I think what they did here was they just wanted to send a loud message that we are going to be treating him the same as we treat everyone else, no exceptions.
You know, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit as well, my friend, on the fact that there are 19 people here who had to take these mugshots, had to go through all this rigmarole. But 2 of them, Sidney Powell and Ken Chisbro, want speedy trials. The president and his people, obviously among the vast majority, who would rather push this all well beyond the October date the judge seems to be giving. What do you think of that?
I think it's a bold and aggressive move on their part. I'm not sure whether it's the smartest litigation strategy. I think that their idea here was that maybe they could catch the district attorney off guard. In other words, they might have said, look, she's gambling on a trial that would occur maybe next summer or something like that. Let's say, hey, we're ready to go, in a couple months. And maybe by that point, she won't be ready. She won't have prepared the evidence. She won't have prepared the witnesses. She really won't be ready to put a case on that quickly. My guess is that's what's driving it. But look, if she's ready to go and they're ready to go, they could wind up being the first ones tried, potentially the first ones convicted. So it's a bit of a roll of the dice on their part. And it will be interesting to see whether other defendants take the same approach or whether they follow former President Trump's lead and try to push this trial back as far as they can.
You know, Tom, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a legal expert, and I read a prompter. So I don't see any of these going to trial before the election.
I tend to agree with that, Neil. I certainly can't see a trial against former President Trump going ahead before the election. To me, that Georgia case especially is just so sprawling, so broad in what she's alleging. There's no possible way you could try that before the election. The only exception I might make is if these people like Chesbro, Powell say, look, we're ready to go in a couple months, and the judge is willing to carve those defendants out and allow the DA to try her case against them individually. Maybe that could happen. But as former President Trump is concerned, no way.
Got it. All right, Tom. Thank you. On a Saturday, no less. You're the best. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Neil.
Tom Dupree.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.